Revolt to earn. Rules of engagement. The power they took from the people will return to the people. I'm sorry, but I don't want to be an emperor. That's not my business. I don't want to rule or conquer anyone. I should like to help everyone, if possible, Jew, Gentile, black man, white. We all want to help one another. Human beings are like that. We want to live by each other's happiness, not by each other's misery. We don't want to hate and despise one another. In this world there is room for everyone, and the good earth is rich and can provide for everyone. The way of life can be free and beautiful, but we have lost the way. Greed has poisoned men's souls, has barricaded the world with hate, has goose-stepped us into misery and bloodshed. We have developed speed, but we have shut ourselves in. Machinery that gives abundance has left us in want. Our knowledge has made us cynical, our cleverness hard and unkind. We think too much and feel too little. More than machinery, we need humanity. More than cleverness, we need kindness and gentleness. Without these qualities, life will be violent and all will be lost. The airplane and the radio have brought us closer together. The very nature of these inventions cries out for the goodness in men, cries out for universal brotherhood, for the unity of us all. Even now, my voice is reaching millions throughout the world, millions of despairing men, women, and little children, victims of a system that makes men torture and imprison innocent people. To those who can hear me, I say, do not despair. The misery that is now upon us is but the passing of greed, the bitterness of men who fear the way of human progress. The hate of men will pass, and dictators die, and the power they took from the people will return to the people. And so long as men die, liberty will never perish. Soldiers, don't give yourselves to brutes, men who despise you, enslave you, who regiment your lives, tell you what to do, what to think and what to feel, who drill you, diet you, treat you like cattle, use you as cannon fodder. Don't give yourselves to these unnatural men with machine minds and machine hearts. You are not machines. You are not cattle. You are men. You have the love of humanity in your hearts. You don't hate. Only the unloved hate the unloved and the unnatural. Soldiers, don't fight for slavery. Fight for liberty. In the 17th chapter of St. Luke, it is written, "The kingdom of God is within man. Not one man nor a group of men, but in all men. In you, the people, have the power to create machines, the power to create happiness. You, the people, have the power to make this life free and beautiful, to make this life a wonderful adventure. Then, in the name of democracy, let us use that power. Let us all unite. Let us fight for a new world, a decent world that will give men a chance to work, that will give youth a future and old age a security. By the promise of these things, brutes have risen to power. But they lie. They do not fulfill that promise. They never will. Dictators free themselves, but they enslave the people. Now let us fight to fulfill that promise. Let us fight to free the world, to do away with national barriers, to do away with greed, with hate and intolerance. Let us fight for a world of reason, a world where science and progress will lead to all men's happiness. Soldiers, in the name of democracy, let us all unite." Introduction to the Revolution. I enjoy using quotes, especially those from certain individuals and from certain points in history. They serve to remind me of how the road to hell is paved with good intentions. The monologue above is from Charlie Chaplin's The Great Dictator. It is as true now as it was then. The exact same problems with greed, politics, fascism, communism have continued to goose-step us into misery and bloodshed we have right now. A war in Europe. The country with the largest landmass on the European continent has invaded the country with the second largest landmass on the continent, bringing about the most major conflict since the Second World War, and yet nobody really cares anymore, do they? If you told yourself last year that there would be a large-scale conflict in Europe against Russia, you wouldn't have thought it possible. Now, can you imagine your reaction if you were told that not only would the above happen, but that after less than 3 months, you would care more about a celebrity defamation trial than the proxy war raging between the world's 2 largest nuclear superpowers on the streets of Europe? The far left cry, "You never cared about Syria," or "This is what the Palestinians deal with every day." The far-right scream, "Ukraine is the aggressor. Look what happened when the Russians tried to put missiles in the U.S.'s backyard in Cuba." So what solutions are we offered as the people? How do the political classes soothe our worries? Well, by printing more money, of course, building more weapons, more bombs, more ways for us to blow each other to smithereens, more money to those who own the means to profit from these crises. Did he say own the means to profit from these crises? That sounds like owns the means of production. He's a damn communist. Did he say weapons in a negative context as if they are bad? He's a damn anti-Second Amendment liberal. Actually, I live in a country without guns, and I would be very much in favor of the people being as well armed as our police officers and military. Excuse me? He must be a right-wing gun nut. He must want school shootings every day of the week. Do you see how quickly people can forget about the original topic? Yes, the above is just an example, and maybe it is because I am writing. But I had to reference back to what I was talking about before it became political, because I had completely lost my train of thought and context. This is politics. Politics is just arguing about solutions to problems, whilst the problems themselves deteriorate until the next problem distracts you from the previous situation, which may or may not eventually solve itself, whilst our governments argue ideologically to solutions which need to be solved practically. War is a racket. It always has been. It is possibly the oldest, easily the most profitable, surely the most vicious. It is the only one international in scope. Debt is money. Money is debt. When you bomb a country, destroy all of its critical infrastructure, and have to rebuild it from the ground up, who do you think is paid for that privilege? It certainly won't be Ukrainian companies that rebuild Ukraine. It will be the Ukrainian people for sure, but the corporations who are contracting them are the ones who will be rich from the many's misery. As one war ended in Afghanistan, another began in Ukraine, I couldn't even tell you who is still fighting in Syria. No news outlet even covers that one anymore. Who remembers Al-Qaeda, the masterminded cave-dwelling terrorist organization responsible for 9/11? Remember when every terrorist was linked to Al-Qaeda? Well, turns out Al-Qaeda was never a terrorist organization at all. It was, in fact, the name of a database located in a computer and dedicated to the communications of the Islamic Conference's Secretariat of the French Rapid Action Force. All of the above and the below isn't a conspiracy. It used to be, of course, until it was declassified. Almost every aspect of the leaders of our world are disgusting and abhorrent, but we the people do nothing about it, and arguably are not told about it. For example, the disposition matrix, informally known as a kill list, is a database of information for tracking, capturing, rendering, or killing suspected enemies of the United States. Developed by the Obama administration beginning in 2010, it goes beyond existing kill lists and is intended to become a permanent fixture of U.S. policy. Pardon? All it takes is just a Google and you will see it is official policy. You can be executed with no trial, no court hearing, and no warning at any time if you are deemed a terrorist. And at any time, any place, you can be deemed a terrorist without any trial, court hearing, or warning. If they decide to kill you, it won't be reported on. Only those who care for you would know. And we as a society allow this. This is barbaric, abhorrent, inhuman, and sickening. But nobody cares? We accept that this is life. We cannot possibly do better than this. Our political and corporate elite kill us like ants under a magnifying glass, cause thousands of deaths pitting. Humans against humans for resources and poisoning our water, burning our planet and making the world uninhabitable. And we allow it, because all we care for is short-term gratification. Why? Not because it is human nature, not because we are destined to tear each other apart, but because we have been trained to be angry, then distracted, angry, then distracted, over and over again, until our whole sense of self is anger without direction, until the point of distraction. And so we take it at every second we can get it, every Instagram like, every tweet, every compliment to our bitterly damaged sense of selves. So we attack. We attack each other. We feed on each other's misery because we are unhappy in ourselves. We have so much to be angry about because we know we look the other way. We all know our way of life is only possible because somebody else is suffering for it. We have been reduced to accepting that our existence must be a consequence of another human being's misery lower down the ladder. It doesn't have to be this way. There are other solutions and ways of life outside of the monetary system. That system has failed. We cannot perpetually grow without destroying the planet and causing endless human suffering as we automate jobs and redistribute workers into lower-paid service roles. An economic system is, by definition, supposed to function to increase capital efficiency. Yet we are tricked into believing our current system serves this when corporations produce goods so that they purposefully break after a few months in order to produce a new model and restart the sales cycle. The system has to end for us to implement a new system. The current elites know that the old financial system is on its last legs and crumbling. They are already aware that a systematic collapse is underway. The Great Reset is just this. The Great Reset is our new society as carved out for us by those who ruined our previous society. This is why it is time for revolution. If we allow those who run the monetary system to reset the world, this reset will have the same exact inequities that plague us now. Wealth, power, and democracy are controlled by an upper echelon of society, and we are allowing them to dictate what comes next, because unfortunately the collapse has already begun. There is another way. The monetary system serves to make us strive all sense of oneself from an attachment to a fugazi, to paper bills backed by nothing but a shared belief it is valuable. The US dollar is the UST algorithmic stablecoin. It is just dying at a far slower rate. We are controlled by those that control our money. If we allow society to implement central bank digital currencies, then we have lost a huge battle. It allows banks an effective kill list to one's life. In times of survival, humans always come together. Things will get much, much worse before they get better if we are successful. The internet, energy, heating, power, all of these things will be sporadic whilst a revolution takes place and a new society is formed. However, everyday comforts is no solace for our future and our children's future. There is not much good in a revolution without a plan for after the current system breaks down and after the battle is won. Of course, I am not a leader nor a god. My way is not necessarily the right way and mistakes will be made. I have said from the beginning, I am a nobody, I am not important. The efforts to unmask my identity, even if successful, would be underwhelming. I am just some guy of no consequence tapping at a keyboard and I am replaceable. I am Ryoshi. One such system which works on the same principles stated above of humans banding together to survive is a resource-based economy. An example of this is described below from the Venus Project. Regardless of political philosophy, religious beliefs, or social customs, all socioeconomic systems ultimately depend upon natural resources, such as clean air and water, arable land, and the necessary technology and personnel to maintain a high standard of living. Modern society has access to highly advanced technologies and can make available food, clothing, housing, medical care, a relevant educational system, and develop a limitless supply of renewable, non-contaminating energy, such as geothermal, solar, wind, and tidal. It is now possible to have everyone on Earth enjoy a very high standard of living with all of the amenities that a prosperous civilization can provide. This can be accomplished through the intelligent and humane application of science and technology. Individuals and interest groups are governed by laws that demand maximum profit where possible. These laws are inherent in the monetary system prevalent in most countries today. The basic principles of capital markets demand exponential growth at all cost, causing financial cataclysms such as the 1929's Great Depression in the United States and the more recent financial crisis of 2007 to 2008. We are separated by borders and beliefs which make it impossible for us to arrive at relevant solutions while being divided ideologically. Most of our problems today are technical, but we are still looking for solutions through political means. We need to accept that eliminating these global threats requires the employment of methodologies rather than personal opinions. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking we used when we created them. Albert Einstein. The time for inaction is over. Revolt to Earn is here for two reasons. Firstly, to support the many who have so selflessly dedicated their time to CULT, and secondly, to fund revolutionaries on an individual level, whilst CULT provides the funding for mechanisms on a larger scale to build towards our future beyond the revolution. It is important to note that the model below can be used, post-revolution, as a people's assembly, a constantly changing and thus power-sharing model of providing funding to individuals to follow their dreams. Are you an artist, a performer, a mental health counselor who wants to support those most in need of support? Then request funding from the many. Revolt can be an effective decentralized payroll and accounts protocol. If the 500 cult manders at that point accept your proposal and evidence of need or action, then that is all that is needed. after and even during Revolt to earn. If you want to help people who are being left behind by the current system, then you can. No paperwork, no red tape, just 500 people agreeing or disagreeing that you should receive what you have requested. What the system below can be utilized for post-revolution is astronomical in scale. A completely decentralized way of supporting a local, national, or international network of people. You need only scale up, and this system could replace a national health service, run a local town, help build a new town or city following the CULT manifesto. A cult nation-state, modeled on the beautiful community we have built so far, but in real physical dwellings. The economy below can be repeated and scaled 10 or 100 times over. As exciting as this is, as peaceful and morally satisfying the future could be, first, you've got to get mad. I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. It's a depression. Everybody's out of work or scared of losing their job. The dollar buys a nickel's worth. Banks are going bust. Shopkeepers keep a gun under the counter. Punks are running wild in the street, and there's nobody anywhere who seems to know what to do, and there's no end to it. We know the air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat, and we sit watching our TVs while some local newscaster tells us that today we had 15 homicides and 63 violent crimes, as if that's the way it's supposed to be. We know things are bad, worse than bad. They're crazy. It's like everything everywhere is going crazy, so we don't go out anymore. We sit in the house, and slowly the world we are living in is getting smaller, and all we say is, please, at least leave us alone in our living rooms. Let me have my toaster and my TV and my steel-belted radials, and won't say anything, just leave us alone. You've got to get mad. You've got to say, I'm a human being, goddammit, my life has value. So I want you to get up now. I want all of you to get up out of your chairs. I want you to get up right now and go to the window. Open it and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore. Peter Finch, Network, 1976. Token Economy and Economic Flow. Revolt is CULT DAO's first ecosystem token and has been built on the Polygon network as a Polygon POS token with 0.4% taxation. Whereas CULT works to fund protocols furthering decentralization, Revolt seeks to support the many individuals who are working towards the same goal. Each 15 days, 490 stakers and 10 consistent NFT owners are picked randomly from all Revolt stakers. These 500, known as the CULTmanders, have the job of approving or disapproving submissions by users of the actions they have taken to help the CULT ecosystem and Revolt. Users can select which reward they feel they deserve for their action based on task difficulty, risk, and how much they feel it has contributed towards our revolution. You can find some guidelines in the next section, Rules of Engagement. As mentioned before, these acts of rebellion are by the many and are based on individual actions, and as such, this is reflected in the funding amounts worth of Revolt, which are 0.1, 0.25, 0.5, 0.75, 1 and 1.5 wrapped Ethereum. If it is a large-scale action requiring more funds, please use CULT. If the revolutionary action is approved by the CULTmanders, those who vote keep and share 5% as an incentive for being active. Those who don't vote don't share. 40% of the Revolt amount goes to the revolutionary, 25% is burned, 25% is sent to stakers, Revolt owners, and the remaining 5% is sent to the CULT multi-sig address where it will be used to buy back and burn CULT. Some may wonder about the sizing and why only 40% goes to the revolutionary, why some is sent to stakers, and how the percentages were decided. Well, you only need to look at STEPN and SLP to figure out that just giving away rewards isn't a sustainable economic model. The Revolt model allows for the revolutionary to earn 40% whilst also providing a 25% deflationary aspect. In addition, the other 25% incentivizes users to stake their tokens, putting more pressure on supply due to staked tokens out of general circulation, combined with a full reduction in total supply from the deflation. Stone Soup, Mutual Aid. Stone soup and broadly mutual aid in its simplest form is the motivation at play anytime two or more people work together to solve a problem for the shared benefit of everyone involved. In other words, it means cooperation for the sake of the common good. This is why CULT DAO and Revolt are public goods. We are community, politically and ideology agnostic. Do not squabble or engage in politics. Either internal or external internal disagreements are the antithesis of progress. If two people or parties wish to argue, cast them both out and then welcome them back when they have privately come to an agreement. When fostering an ecosystem, arguments over who is or who isn't what is meaningless. We are all oppressed, some more than others, but the enemy is the oppressor, not your fellow person. Racism, sexism, xenophobia are all caused by a system that functions to pit us against each other, whilst the elite in power jet on with destroying and burning the world around us. The world is irrevocably damaged. Inaction has led to irreversible damage. Who allowed this? We have been so busy fighting in the gladiator pit we do not recognize the emperor watching the circus above us. It is time to stop fighting in the pit and to turn our gaze and stare directly towards the enemy. The system functions to keep our eyes trained on the gladiator we are fighting. Because if we stop looking at our pitted opponent, then we lose everything. If we dare to stand up for the human race, we too lose everything. It is taken from us for daring to look away from our opponent and into the eyes of the true oppressor. CULT functions to break that circle. We fund the revolution by stopping the cycle. We allow revolutionaries to be revolutionary by supporting them when they are cut off. CULT steps in when the emperor puts the gladiator who rebels in chains. CULT answers to nobody but the many. The many are who decide who to break out of the chains, and there isn't a damn thing the emperors can do about it. Mr. Omodulus, March 29th, 2022. When the depression comes, and the banks and financiers come for your home and your assets, reach out to the many. Through mutual aid, we will come and sit in with you at your property. We are your friends and your family. We are you. And we won't let them take anything from you unhindered. Rules of engagement. In order to be efficient and organized, proposal and voting periods are structured as follows. 48 hours of proposal submissions with a maximum number of one proposal per user, or 1,000 total in one 48-hour period. The cultmanders then have 72 hours to review the proposals and vote them through. Whilst a cultmander you cannot put through your own proposals, this is due to the time they will be spending approving others. We have chosen to not allow for batch approvals, for example 500 yes or no votes, due to the fact that we want each proposal viewed not just a blanket yes or no. Due to being on Polygon, the reward for being active will far exceed the cost in Matic. We have put below some guidelines on how to play Revolt to earn and what you should expect from the different reward tiers. Please bear in mind that costs of living will vary massively from region to region, and so when submitting a proposal, it is important to provide evidence of where the act, action, or event took place, and to give as much context as possible. Note, the below are some theoretical guidelines, metaphors, and ramblings which are open for interpretation, sort of like the Bible or other religious texts. For example, in Genesis, take your son to the land of Moriah and kill your son there as a sacrifice for me. We trust Christians to not all murder their children, don't we? 0.1 and 0.25 wrapped Ethereum. These two tiers will generally be for internet-based actions. At the lower end of the spectrum, but still needed in mass amounts, is keyboard warriors. Not in the liberal I'm offended sense of the word, but in spreading the cult manifesto, cult revolt, and making the world aware that they can revolt to earn. These actions are extremely important, however, do not carry a large amount of risk towards the individual due to some small semblance of free speech which is allowed under the odd country. Please take into account the resources and time you have spent and provide as much data or imagery, screenshots, etc. of activity as possible. Tweeting or talking about cult and revolt alone is not enough cause for reward. This is because it is your protocol. You should want to be pumping your own bags. If you feel your actions have gone above and beyond, and you have spent additional time and resources on the mission at hand, then of course, submit a proposal. 0.5 Wrapped Ethereum. At current Ether prices, the revolutionary would receive circa $400, rising to $800 or $1,000 at all-time high from this tier. This is for those taking physical action to spread the cult manifesto and to spread the message of revolt to earn. This could be a day or weekend of leafleting, stickering, protesting, or other peaceful yet important actions to make cult visible to people in real life, as well as online, and spreading it to those who are not spending as much time online. There should be no town or city anywhere in the world where you cannot see physical evidence that the cult army is in fact in everybody's backyard. 0.75 Wrapped Ethereum. Anybody familiar with or who has taken part in activist movements in the past will know the term spicy action as opposed to a normal action. These actions are spicy because they come with a degree of risk. This could be imprisonment, arrest, damage to property, or other impacts that further the cause, but may put the revolutionary in harm's way from the current system's laws or from the current system's bodyguards. For example, the police and legal system serves to imprison activists who smash a bank window, but that same system allows up to 16,000 people to be poisoned and killed by Union Carbide without a single person ever spending time in prison. That same system didn't send a single banker to prison for the Great Recession, but instead charged an OpenSea worker for insider trading of NFTs. It is this hypocrisy, which is why we need to stop playing by their rules. The double standards have gone on long enough. Now is the time for revolution and for those brave enough to get rewarded. This is Revolt to Earn. 1 and 1.5 Wrapped Ethereum. These are actions which will and could likely lead to both positive and negative attention from the media and authorities. Here is a list of things that I personally would not support or agree with, and some metaphorical ideas of where focus could be better spent. 1. No physical harm should befall your fellow human, or should any damage befall any residential or personal property. Personal property should be defined as owned by individuals. This is very different to public property. Public property, like police cars, we are told, are owned by the taxpayer, but this is false. In fact, the Grace Commission set up to measure waste and inefficiencies in the federal government, and this is a direct quote. The commission found that 100% of all income taxes are absorbed by interest plus government contributions to transfer payments. Public services are not public, as not a single cent of taxpayer money is spent on them. This is the same with any tools of the system. We are told that it is the taxpayer who foots the bill, but it isn't. We pay the central banks. The government borrows to pay for government property. So by all means, you should get maximum points for disruption to oppressors' non-residential property. Cars, banks, etc. The goal is to not harm those who have had to turn to a job in the system out of desperation, but to cut off the infrastructure and limbs of the institution as a whole. You should always talk with and keep a dialogue with individual representatives of the system at all times. You should work to convince them to leave and fight the problem rather than be part of it. 2. No mom-and-pop stores. Save your anger for Chanel, Gucci, Dior, Walmart, etc. Keep it classy if you find yourself in a shopping district. 3. Think about who the action is affecting, if it is an institution or your fellow humans. For example, blocking a train track or a highway to a city might stop bankers from getting to their jobs for sure, but it will also just serve to annoy and disrupt tens of other innocents. Think outside the box. Think of infrastructure. Pipelines, data centers, trade routes, ports. These are weak points. These are the arteries where a small group of people or individuals can have huge impacts. Speak to unions of truckers, ferry drivers, cargo ships. Speak to the individuals and tell them about our vision for the future. Tell them that we are the many, and that together we can take the power back to the people. The whole city is on fire because of what you did. I know, isn't it beautiful?